real inspiration for this was I was at a party over this past weekend, and there were two absolute icons of entertainment that were there. I'm not going to tell you who they were because they didn't give me the permission to mention them, but they were talking about GLPs. And so I added a couple things to the conversation, and they looked at me and like, wow, I didn't know that. And here's the things I was saying. So they were talking about side effects of GLPs, and I said, well, the side effects aren't the side effects of GLPs. The side effects that people are seeing are the side effects of having a nutrient deficiency, meaning you're not getting enough of something. And then you put appetite suppression on top of that, and you keep eating the same way. This is going to be a problem because that just means you're having a larger nutrient deficiency. Hi, my name is Jaquish. I'm a doctor of biomedical engineering, which gives me a unique perspective on all sorts of things. Today, I'm going to talk about GLP agonists. So people call them GLP drugs. They're peptides, which is a category of pharmaceutical, but it's a category that's more like hormones. Peptides and hormones occur naturally in the body. And so when we introduce them exogenously, which means from outside in and not having the body create it, endogenously is when the body creates it. So when we introduce these things exogenously, we need to understand what they do, but also just from a basic physiology understanding perspective, peptides and hormones are less likely to cause serious problems. And that the big caveat there are peptides that if you take too much, you'll die. Like insulin, for example. Insulin's a peptide, if you take too much of it, you're dead as fried chicken. So you need to be mindful that these things do carry risk, especially if misused. However, they occur naturally in the body. So the chances of a really bad side effect that nobody's ever heard of before or seen before don't really revolve around these things. When pharmaceuticals that don't fit into the peptide or hormone category, those are chemicals that are not found in nature. Those are chemicals that might be a modification of a peptide or a hormone or a growth factor. And these things can go awry and have at a greater rate than what we've seen with hormones and peptides. So from a basic level, we should have a little less concern and have a greater understanding of what these things do naturally in the body and see if we can just give a little bit more than the body naturally has to create a more positive effect and create a greater level of health. Because ultimately, everything I'm talking about is so that somebody has a better level of health and are avoiding any side effect or negative effect. So when it comes to the GLPs, let's look at what they do. Number one is appetite suppression. So GLP-1, your body makes it. It's typically when you've eaten a meal and your body tells you you're full. So these things go up and you're not hungry anymore. So it's appetite suppression. Now, other more advanced GLPs have other mechanisms. I'm not going to go into the details of that, but there's GLP-2, which is like trizepatide. So that's the GLP-1 and GIP. And then there's the GLP-3, which also has a glucagon element to it. The best one, but it's not really out yet. You can just find it with research companies, I guess. I'm not a distributor. Don't ask me where to get it. That's what I think is the best one. And I take 2 milligrams of the GLP-3 per week. And people are like, well, you have a great control over your diet. Like, why would you even do that? Why would you bother? And the answer is kind of interesting because the appetite suppression plus the glucagon and the GIP gives me the ability to really lower my visceral fat. So like my waist has shrunk. That's wonderful because I always kind of had kind of like a barrel waist. And it was like, I was lean, you could see my six pack, but it seemed like I had almost like what people call GH gut. And it was really just, I had visceral fat, or at least some of it. Now I want to talk about the casual person who might not be very advanced in their physical training or might not know what they need to do from a nutrition standpoint. So I want this video to be something that you guys can share with individuals who have questions about GLPs and might not know like how important protein is or whatever. And the real inspiration for this was I was at a party over this past weekend, and there were two absolute icons of entertainment that were there. I'm not going to tell you who they were because they didn't give me the permission to mention them, but they were talking about GLPs. And so I added a couple things to the conversation, and they looked at me and like, wow, I didn't know that. And here's the things I was saying. So they were talking about side effects of GLPs, and I said, well, the side effects aren't the side effects of GLPs. The side effects that people are seeing are the side effects of having a nutrient deficiency, meaning you're not getting enough of something. And then you put appetite suppression on top of that, and you keep eating the same way. This is going to be a problem because that just means you're having a larger nutrient deficiency. I'm pausing because this is the important part. If you strategically arrange your nutrition so that you get the proper amount of protein, 1 gram per pound of body weight in protein, and you make sure you get 50 grams of fats, you're going to be so much better off. Now, there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. Muscularity looks much better with 20 grams as opposed to 0 of carbohydrates per day. You just look more full. And literally, it's the fullness of the glycogen in the muscle. But for somebody who's not training, and again, I want this video to be shared with people who might not be all about training, the important part with the GLPs is getting your protein and getting your fats. That's it. As long as you do that, you'll be at a calorie deficit. That will enable you to drop significant amounts of body fat, but by having the high level of protein, you're preserving bone density, you're preserving muscularity. Now, I would also add it's important to have training on top of that because you just want to have more muscle. I mention this all the time. One of the greatest drivers of longevity is high levels of strength, which means muscle mass. And why is that? Because every organ in your body is designed to supply muscle with what muscle needs. If the muscle starts going away, the organs don't have a reason to function very well. And that's why ultimately when people leave this world and they're elderly, a lot of times you hear frailty mentioned. The person was just frail and they died. The frailty isn't like, oh, they can't bench press anymore. That's not the problem. It's that they don't have enough muscle mass to keep the organs functioning at the rate that they're accustomed to be functioning, so then they start to fail. Keep the protein where it's supposed to be, 1 gram per pound of body weight. You can supplement with Fortigen. That's a great idea. It makes that target easier to hit. I get most of my protein from Fortigen, which is an essential amino acid complex. So it's not actually protein, it becomes proteins in the body because it's the essential amino acids that are required to assemble the complete human protein. Now, doing that is a lot easier than just eating tons and tons of steak or chicken or fish, but it just kind of cuts the edge off the difficulty. Also, that ends up being a lot lower calorie and will help you get to your goals a little bit faster. Another thing I want to point out is I think some of the time people get on a GLP, they lose their appetite to a degree, and then they think like, oh, I'm just going to have some like 500 calories a day, just massive deficit. Don't do that. That's going to make you feel awful. So consistently, maybe an 800 calorie deficit from whatever your basal metabolic rate is plus activity. And there's plenty of free calculators on the internet you can use to calculate that. You could probably just ask ChatGPT. It'll ask you stats like your activity level, your height, your body weight, and it'll help you do that. And then you use something like Fit Day or there's a bunch of calorie trackers out there. There's one that's really prominent and that I just slipped in my mind at the moment. I'll pop it up on the screen. So keep those things in mind. Like the whole punchline here is protein, super high priority, and make sure you get at least 50 grams of fats. And you're going to be doing so much better. You're going to get the weight loss results. And now, especially that you have the higher level of protein, now you can build some muscle. You can actually start to develop. You don't need to be a super athlete, but I think it's really important that people get involved in some type of strength training. They go to fatigue, and with variable resistance, that takes the danger out of training. So it's very approachable. I find that women have no problem training to absolute momentary muscular failure, even multiple times in one set using variable resistance, and they don't feel like there's any danger. Ultimately, the risk aversion is what keeps people from wanting to train as hard as possible. And with variable resistance, the risk drops way down and the stimulus goes way up. I hope that helped. Ask questions in the comments. See you on the next one.
If this video helped you, I want you to subscribe and follow. I'm going to put out videos on a regular basis. I think they're going to help a whole lot of people, especially if you're one of those people that doesn't just instantly grow from lifting regular weights. We've got the answer for you.